The Watchers is a new mystery/horror film rated PG-13. It comes to us from director Ishana Shyamalan, who is the daughter of M. Night. It's also an adaptation of the novel that goes by the same name that comes to us from A.M. Shine. I have not read the novel. I feel like I say that all the time. I'm just not much of a bookworm, and when I do read things, usually it's nonfiction. So full disclosure, I went into this film not knowing anything about the story really other than what the trailer showed us. And I went in cautiously optimistic because knowing that this is Shyamalan's daughter directing this and that it's her first film, I kind of assumed it could go either of two ways. I don't think you could find a single director out there who has a greater gap in quality amongst their filmography than M. Night Shyamalan. He truly has produced some of the greatest films I've ever seen, some of the worst films I've ever seen, and some things that fall somewhere in the middle. I mean, he's done The Sixth Sense and Signs, both of which I hold very near and dear to me. Those are films that are so memorable, and I'll always remember the first time that I watched those. But he also made The Happening and After Earth and a couple of other really atrocious pieces of junk. In this story, we follow Mina, played by Dakota Fanning. She goes on a drive for a reason that doesn't really matter through the backwoods of Ireland, finds herself lost, her car breaks down, and eventually she finds a small building that is inhabited by 3 other strangers. And thus, we have this premise where all of our characters are contained in one location and they're being stalked by these mysterious supernatural beings out in the forest. And Mina is informed that there are certain rules she needs to follow in order to appease these supernatural beings so that they don't attack everyone. For instance, you can't go out after dark. You can't turn your back to the glass window. It's a one-way window that it takes up a large space of this building. Because for reasons that are unknown to us and unknown to Mina herself, these beings show up at night and watch and observe these characters. It's a truly great premise in multiple ways. First of all, it's quite eerie in that it preys on our innate fear of being watched. You ever have that feeling that someone could be watching you and you look over your shoulder and you're scanning your environment because you just have this really off feeling? This preys on that. I mean, the fact that they can't see the Watchers, but the Watchers can see them, it not only makes you wonder what these things look like, but it also just gives you this queasy, uneasy feeling. And I have to say, the first 30 minutes or so build on that suspense pretty well. The entire film is very well shot, the sound design is extremely effective, and I have to point out the musical score was quite good as well. I say that a lot, but man, music is such an underrated part of the film experience, and when it hits right, it really helps in immersing you in the story. Unfortunately, as this movie went on and peeled back layer after layer, I became more and more frustrated with some of the writing choices, and just the way it executes the twists. This is a mystery after all, so a lot of its entertainment value hinges on the reveal of what's actually going on. What are these Watcher creatures? What do they want? Why are they stalking these characters? And why do they keep them alive? And I'll say the answer that we eventually get is excellent in concept, but the execution is where it really drops the ball. The way it's revealed just feels totally scattershot. I mean, the pacing in the second half of this film is all over the place. There were like 3 separate points where I thought, okay, maybe the movie's ending now. Oh, nope, I guess we're going to a new location and exploring another idea. Okay. I'm about to sound like a broken record because I feel like I say this in a lot of my videos, but again, the dialogue in this film feels very inauthentic and wooden. And this isn't just a problem in the second half, it's a problem throughout the entire movie. I mean, from the moment Dakota Fanning's car breaks down, she gets out, and it's just like clear trees in every direction. And yet she starts yelling out, "Hello, my car broke down, can you please help me?" It doesn't sound like something people would actually say. And as far as the character herself, Mina, our protagonist, in a novel, you would expect this character to be very well written, and maybe she is, and you can see shades of that translate over to this adaptation because she carries a lot of guilt with her over something that happened in her past. And I do like that they explore that and kind of connect it to the situation that she finds herself in now, but she still makes decisions and says things that are so odd. Like when she first arrives at this house with these other characters, they invite her in, and she doesn't have as many questions as I would have after the experience that she just had. But quite frankly, the other characters are even more dumb. Some of them were supposedly at this house, trapped here for months, yet Mina somehow discovers things in the house that they didn't know were there in just her first night. That just feels like a huge oversight, and when that happened, it took me right out of the movie. There's also a subplot that gets introduced about this professor who was the first one to discover this forest in Ireland, and it turns into an exposition fest where The movie vomits information to the audience, and it does this through characters suddenly revealing things that they've known for a while, but for some reason they just kept it to themselves. This character, played by Olwen Fouere, I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Through about half this movie, her sole purpose is to tell the audience things, and she is explained to be a professor at a college or something, so she has knowledge of folklore and some of the things that are involved with the plot. But she describes things in such an oddly specific way that it feels more like the screenwriters talking directly to the audience rather than two characters exchanging information. And the worst thing a movie with big twists can do is spoon feed the audience information instead of giving us clues and letting us figure it out for ourselves. It just kind of feels like they're talking down to us. The Watchers is definitely guilty of this trope, and I can't really say much more about the third act without spoiling it, but it goes so off the rails. It's such a messy interpretation of this idea. I hate talking about a movie like this so negatively because I see so much potential in it, but it really fumbles the bag in the end. This is definitely one of the most confused and messiest third acts I've witnessed in a long time. If I had to compare this to something that M. Night himself would make, I would say it's similar to something along the lines of Lady in the Water. I really like the ideas, it's the execution that falls completely short, but hey, this is pretty early on in Ishana's career. She still has plenty of time to make her own Sixth Sense or Unbreakable or Signs. If she decides to direct another movie, I'll be there on day one to check it out because I think she shows a lot of promise in this, but the screenwriting was a huge letdown, so I'm going to give The Watchers 2 stars. So those are my thoughts on the film. As always, I encourage you to drop down into the comments if you've seen it and let me know what your thoughts are. Do you agree with my take, or was this actually really good? I know even some of Shyamalan's worst movies have their supporters. People love Lady in the Water and The Happening. I do have a few more uploads planned for the rest of the weekend, so be sure to stay tuned for those. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want more content like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.